Robbie Lawler took it to Rory McDonald. Both fighters were hurt. Oh, wow.
Khabib Nurmagomedov's suffocating pressure.
By Khabib Nurmagomedov. We've never seen anybody do this.
Johnson's terrifying knockout power.
And now he's down.
These warriors had a reputation that sent shivers down the spine of even the toughest challengers. From brutal knockouts to ruthless submission specialists, this list features the most feared fighters in MMA history. If you love combat sports, hit that subscribe button for more breakdowns, and let's dive into the scariest fighters to ever step inside the cage. 10. Robbie Lawler. Ruthless. That's the only way to describe Robbie Lawler. His opponents didn't just prepare for a fight, they prepared for war. Lawler was a fighter who thrived in chaos, never backing down from brutal exchanges. His legendary battles, like his blood-soaked war against Rory McDonald, showed his ability to endure punishment and keep coming forward. His aggressive boxing, knockout power, and granite chin made him one of the most feared welterweights ever. A former UFC welterweight champion, Lawler's style was built on overwhelming opponents with relentless pressure. Even when bloodied and battered, he fought with an intensity that broke his opponents mentally and physically. With a record of 30-16, Lawler left a legacy of unforgettable wars inside the octagon, proving that he was one of the most intimidating fighters the sport has ever seen. 9. Khabib Nurmagomedov. An undefeated record of 29-0 is terrifying in itself. But what made Khabib truly scary was his relentless grappling and ability to make world-class fighters look helpless. Once he secured a takedown, the fight was practically over. Khabib's top control was suffocating his ground-and-pound ruthless, and his ability to neutralize any opponent was unparalleled. Fighters knew exactly what was coming, but still couldn't stop it. His dominance in the lightweight division made him one of the most feared fighters ever. He didn't just beat his opponents, he broke them mentally and physically. His habit of talking to his opponents while smashing them, as seen in his fight with Michael Johnson, added to his intimidation factor. Khabib's reign of dominance left no doubt that he was one of the most terrifying forces in MMA history. 8. Yoel Romero. At first glance, Yoel Romero looked like a comic book superhero. Chiseled muscles, explosive power, and an intimidating presence. But behind the physique was an Olympic silver medalist with freakish knockout power. Romero's athleticism was unmatched, and his ability to finish fights in an instant made him one of the most feared middleweights of all time. His flying knee knockout of Chris Weidman remains one of the most brutal KOs in UFC history. Even when Romero seemed to be slowing down, he could explode out of nowhere and change the fight with one punch. His unorthodox movement, unpredictability, and granite chin made him a nightmare to deal with. With a record of 16-7, Romero's raw explosiveness and ability to end fights abruptly contributed significantly to his fearsome reputation. 7. Rousimar Palhares. If you fought Rousimar Palhares, you weren't just afraid of losing, you were afraid of getting seriously injured. This Brazilian submission specialist was notorious for his leg locks, specifically heel hooks that often left opponents with torn ligaments. His refusal to release submissions even after opponents tapped led to his eventual ban from the UFC. Dana White declared he would never fight for the promotion again due to repeated unsportsmanlike conduct. Palhares' insane grip strength and aggressive grappling style made him one of the most feared submission artists in MMA history. With an MMA record of 19-13-1, Palhares was as dangerous as they came. 6. Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar was a walking nightmare. Standing at 6 feet 3 inches and weighing 280 pounds, Lesnar looked like a real-life monster. With an NCAA wrestling background and freakish athleticism, he overwhelmed opponents with raw strength and power. His transition from WWE to UFC was met with skepticism, but he quickly silenced doubters by becoming UFC heavyweight champion. He steamrolled through top fighters, including Randy Couture and Frank Mir, using his brutal ground and pound to dominate. Lesnar's intimidating presence alone made opponents hesitate before even stepping into the octagon. Despite a 5-3-0 MMA record, his ability to physically manhandle elite heavyweights was unmatched. 5. Vitor Belfort. Vitor the Phenom. Belfort was one of the scariest strikers in MMA history, especially during his TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, era. His lightning-fast hands, aggressive style, and devastating knockout power made him a nightmare for opponents. Belfort's striking was legendary, and his ability to overwhelm opponents in seconds made him one of the most dangerous finishers in the sport. His kicks in particular were terrifying. He famously ended Luke Rockhold's 9-fight win streak with a spinning heel kick and delivered a head kick that permanently damaged Michael Bisping's eye. As the former UFC light heavyweight champion, Belfort's TRT-fueled aggression made him even more dangerous. With a record of 26-14, he left a lasting impact on the sport as one of the most feared strikers in UFC history. 4. Anthony Johnson. Few fighters in MMA history possessed the raw knockout power of Anthony "Rumble" Johnson. His ability to end fights with a single punch made him one of the most feared light heavyweights of all time. Over his 15-year career, he accumulated 23 victories, with 17 of them coming by knockout. Rumble's ability to close the distance and land devastating shots made every fight a potential highlight reel finish. Fighters knew they had to survive the first round against him, but most couldn't. His shocking one-punch knockouts sent multiple fighters into unconsciousness within seconds. Johnson's sheer power and fearless fighting style made him one of the most dangerous men to ever step inside the cage. 3. Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva wasn't intimidating because of brute force. He was terrifying because he made elite fighters look like amateurs. His head movement, counter-striking, and ability to toy with opponents made him one of the most feared middleweights of all time. Silva's legendary 16-fight win streak and title reign showcased his ability to dismantle top fighters with ease. His front-kick knockout of Vida Belfort and his absolute domination of Forrest Griffin are still some of the most iconic moments in UFC history. Opponents hesitated to strike because Silva's counters were deadly. His psychological warfare inside the cage made fighters second-guess themselves, making him even more dangerous. With a record of 34-11, Silva remains one of the greatest and most intimidating fighters to ever compete. 2. Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez didn't just beat his opponents, he smothered them. His relentless pressure, heavy hands, and world-class wrestling made him one of the most terrifying heavyweights ever. He demolished Brock Lesnar to win the heavyweight title and delivered one of the most brutal beatdowns in UFC history against Junior Dos Santos. Velasquez's cardio was unheard of for a heavyweight, allowing him to push a relentless pace that left his opponents exhausted and helpless. His ability to mix powerful striking with dominant wrestling made him a nightmare to deal with. With a 14-3 record, he cemented himself as one of the most dangerous heavyweights in MMA history. 1. Wanderlei Silva. Wanderlei Silva, known as the Axe Murderer, was the embodiment of controlled chaos in the cage. His aggressive, brawling style, devastating Muay Thai clinch, and brutal knockout power made him one of the most feared fighters in MMA history. Competing in Pride FC and later the UFC, Silva became notorious for his relentless pressure and unbreakable will to win. His terrifying stare-downs and ferocious pace overwhelmed opponents before the fight even began. Silva wasn't just about power. His ability to absorb punishment and keep moving forward made him even scarier. His legendary battles with Rampage Jackson and his dominance in Pride cemented his legacy as one of the most dangerous men to ever compete in MMA. With a record of 35-14-1, Silva remains a true legend of the sport. Now it's your turn. Who do you think is the scariest fighter in MMA history? Is it a relentless knockout artist, a merciless submission specialist, or an unstoppable force with unmatched dominance? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more MMA content, breakdowns, and fight analysis. Stay tuned for more action-packed discussions, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep watching, keep fighting.